If you missed my video the other day, I talked about how there is this really big rumor going around about the next Zelda game, and we can almost treat it like a leak because the source that it comes from has been extremely reliable. He has had information on some pretty big things that makes him trustworthy. His name is Special Nick, and I will once again link the podcast down below where you can go straight to the time section of him talking about the next mainline Zelda game, but he's had info on Prime 4 being big but not open world, which he got right with the hub world, and he correctly knew the Switch 2 launch month and also the pricing and the Mario Kart World bundle. He even knew that the Nintendo was remastering Mario Galaxy 2, so yeah, he's been pretty much on top of everything. So he gave some pretty good information about what this next Zelda game is going to be like and how it's going to play. Apparently it's very, very early in production still. Obviously it's not even 3 years since Tears of the Kingdom yet, but this is what he had to say about the game. That it's staying in the Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom style of format with the same engine, which means it's just simply going to be an open-air, open-world Zelda game, not necessarily following Tears of the Kingdom, as a Breath of the Wild style of game again. The phrase used to describe the game is tears in reality. The puzzles will be cross-dimensional this time around. You apparently will also be able to do things or move objects in another dimension that will affect your dimension. One example that he gave was a charging bull that chases you in one dimension and it hits a target to activate something in your dimension, like unlock a door or something. Think of the Dark World or Low Rule. Another thing he said was water makes things float to the surface. An example is there is a room with a chain and ball. You pour water in that room from another dimension to make the ball float in your dimension, pulling the chain and ball up. And he pretty much just wraps it up saying that Link has new jump dimensional powers. His main new ability seems to be opening up rifts between two realities. This game is still years away, at least 3 to 4 more years. But yeah, that's our information about the next Zelda game, and I've already covered all that information and talked about it, but I want to dive deep into this new reality mechanic and, having dimensions that you can open up and stuff, because I feel like this is absolutely revolutionary and definitely something the Zelda team should be doing, and it sounds like something that they'd be working on. Real quick, I just want to thank you guys so much for showing your support recently. We are on our goal of 390,000 and our ultimate goal of 400K. You can make that happen by leaving a like and subscribing. Almost 400 of you subscribed the other day. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your love and support. Let's see how many we can get to subscribe on this video alone. But if you're a big Zelda fan, you're going to want to stay here because we're going to be talking about this game for a while. Thank you guys, and let's dive into this rift mechanic thing. Before we talk about mechanics, I want to talk about the world itself. I've always been a huge fan of the Dark World. I think having a mirror world in another dimension that reflects the dimension that you're in is very interesting, and they've done it obviously with Link to the Past and did it again with Link Between Worlds, where they had Low Rule instead of High Rule. And ever since Nintendo told us that we'd be getting a direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, my mind wondered with how they would change the map up this time around. As we know, they didn't do it that they would at all, but my big theory was somehow they would completely give us a mirror world or an opposite world to reference Link to the Past. Maybe a dark version of what this Hyrule could have looked like, and I still think that would have been an awesome idea, but that never came into fruition. In fact, only thing we got were the depths, which were mostly just empty catacombs and caves full of enemies and rocks down there, not to mention lots of gloom. But man, this sounds like such an awesome idea, and all I can think of, just look at our world of Hyrule that we have right now in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and could you imagine if we had a full-fledged, completely well-designed second mirror world which took the locations of our world and changed them drastically in a completely different one that was dark and creepier and eerier? That would be so cool. Now, I'm assuming that this is going to be a completely new Zelda experience, a new batch of characters, a new Link and Zelda, a new story, a new world, a new art style, all of that jazz, which is pretty interesting to me. I'm really ready to get out of the Breath of the Wild era. But with that, you're going to have a completely new Hyrule. I think the best way to do this is to not have the size of a Hyrule that we had in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I think that ultimately hurt the development of making a second map like the depths or adding things in the sky like the Skylands, because the fact that the map is just so massive. Yes, Breath of the Wild's map is huge, and I feel like the best way to combat this is to have 2 maps, your world and of course the Dark World, and the best way to do that is to have a lot smaller of a main Hyrule. I think Hyrule's map can be condensed a lot more and filled with more things to do at every look and turn. That way the map doesn't feel empty and there's not sprawling areas of emptiness. This time you can actually go full detail with the entire world, and I feel like just downscaling the map a little bit so that way you can also have a mirror dimension of that map that you can enter at any time would be extremely cool. Having two smaller sized maps that are very condensed will feel like the size of one giant map, but this time with just 10 times more things to do, more NPCs to talk to, and more creatures and things to find along your adventures, and more just secrets and Easter eggs. They could really fill both of these maps up with some amazing things. It could also give off a feeling that we haven't had before, a presence that just actually makes us fearful, something that actually makes us clench the controller a little tighter. It's something that I haven't really felt since Ocarina of Time, jumping into the well for the first time. The depths weren't even able to really do this for me. I think my first time jumping in there, it was pretty creepy, but then I really learned that it's just a lot of emptiness down there with some Yiga soldiers and a couple of gloom-filled enemies. So that didn't really give me that fear that I wanted. I wanted to come across some crazy style of enemies that would be like lurking in the caves, and I feel like something like that could definitely happen with a dark world. Getting all your bearings, bringing your best weapons, and diving into the dark world to enter a world of super powerful enemies, creepy locations where every nook and turn could just be a jump scare. Oh, that would be so cool to see in a Zelda game. There's a good chance this doesn't happen, and maybe it's just a giant Hyrule once again that we get to explore, but it's a completely different one. That would still be fine, but maybe this pocket dimension is just that, a pocket dimension, and something that you just use for small areas and tools at your disposal. It sounds like this dimensional rift thing will be more for puzzles than anything else. Now, this reminds me directly of Link Between Worlds, where you pretty much had this ability to merge into 2D sections on the walls of any platform. And the more I think about it, this game's development kind of sounds like a full 3D mainline version of what they did with Link Between Worlds, where not only did Link have this really cool new power to merge onto walls, but he also had a light and dark world, or a low rule and high rule. So I'm starting to wonder if they could possibly be pulling from a connection with this game. Like, could our main Link actually be a younger one as well? It's hard to tell how old Link is in a top-down 2D Zelda game, but could you imagine if they went back towards almost like a Wind Waker style, giving us a younger Link? Okay, I'm going completely off track here. But back to the main mechanic. It seems like we'll be able to open rifts maybe in dungeons or shrines or specific areas of the map that allows us to do something in one dimension that affects our dimension directly. In my opinion, Tears of the Kingdom had way better puzzles than we had in Breath of the Wild. Thanks to the Ultra Hand, the ability to build different machines and also to attach things to one another, I feel like this was an awesome new mechanic that opened the door for so many things for them to do puzzle-wise. In fact, I felt like there was a lot of untapped potential in the game with how much they actually could have done. But imagine instead of being able to build things or using Ultra Hand powers, in the next game you have these shrines or dungeons where you have to use another dimension to help you in your dimension. Maybe every shrine or every dungeon gives you access to an opposite shrine or dungeon on the other side. Now, the best way I could visualize this is using ChatGPT to give you kind of a vision of what this would look like. So here in this shrine, you have to actually lift this bridge up from the lava in order to get to the other side. But of course, in this next game, we don't have that ability. The only ability we have is Link has the option to open up a rift or a portal to a mirror dimension that has very similar locations in it. So Link opens up the pocket dimension and jumps in, and he'll find an area that looks eerily similar, but definitely different. It's more abandoned in ruins with vines all over the place and trees growing out of the ground. Now, unlike the shrine in the light world, you can't really do much outside of this room. In order to finish the shrine, you have to do it in the light world. But what is this world for then? Why even open up a rift to the dark world? Well, you need to cool down the lava. So instead, you open up a rift and find some type of way to bring the water in from that world into your world. Maybe there's also some type of small puzzle that you have to do in that world in order to get the water to pour into yours, but once you do that, it will harden the lava, allowing you to run across and complete the shrine. Now imagine this being an ability that you can do at any time, anywhere in the entirety of Hyrule. Perhaps there's even an area where you're in the dark world and you need the light world in order to help you this time around, to bring something from the normal world into the dark world. Having an alternate dimension that's fully explorable in a 3D mainline Zelda game just sounds like a dream come true. A full-fledged open-world 3D take on Link to the Past and Link Between Worlds. Like, just thinking of all the awesome puzzles and side quests they could have would be so insane. Like having an NPC in the dark world have you deliver something to an NPC in the light world by giving you some vague hints and clues, or finding a map in the light world that leads to a specific spot in the dark world. Or could you imagine a boss battle that thrives in both dimensions where you might have to go to the dark world in order to hit a weak spot that's not available in the light world, and vice versa, and that would just be so awesome. But let me know in the comments down below if you think this mechanic of having a light and dark world would be really cool, and pocket dimensions that you can open up to solve puzzles. I think this is an awesome new step in the right direction that they need to go, and also just leave Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom's world in the dark. Like, we're done with that one. Let's move on to a new one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next one. See you guys.